I was raised to believe, as the scriptures say, that we should love mercy, that we should do justice, and that we should walk humbly with God.
Well, thanks again for making time for us, Mr. Stevenson.
Absolutely.
How many times have you seen the movie so far?
Oh, at least 6 or 7. The film focuses on just one of the cases that I write about, but it's one of the main cases that frames the book Just Mercy. You can't take a story that took 6 years to unfold and put everything in it, and so some things have had to be condensed, but I actually think they do a really good job of presenting the essential features of the story. I wrote about the McMillian case because I don't think people appreciate the burden, the weight, the challenge, the suffering that's created when we take an innocent person and we accuse them of something they didn't do, and then we convict them and we put them on death row. And I think the film does a great job of exposing people to the burden these places on families. We don't just put innocent people in jails and prisons, we put their families, we put their communities, and that comes through in the film. And then Jamie Foxx is so extraordinary in the role of Walter McMillian. I think you get a sense of just how challenging it is to be placed in a situation like this, how confusing, how surreal, how difficult it can be. So I was apprehensive when they came to me about making a movie out of the book, just because, you know, sometimes when Hollywood gets these stories, things get compromised and the integrity is lost, the truth is lost. But the director, Destin Daniel Critton, was very committed to doing this the right way. And then when Michael B. Jordan signed on, we spent a lot of time talking. We were all aligned in the idea that we wanted to get this right, that we wanted to be truthful about the essential features of what happened, and I'm really pleased with the film.
How much input did you have, or how much creative control did you have?
Yeah, you know, I was very involved. They were incredibly solicitous, particularly during the script writing phase. You know, in the book I write about other lawyers that were involved in the litigation, other players that played a role, and there was no way to introduce all of those characters in a 2-hour film. And so a lot of the kind of conversation was about how do we represent some of these developments with fewer characters. And Destin was always very solicitous of my input. They were very respectful and very attentive to my concerns. And that was simply that, you know, the people I represent not be distorted or reduced into some kind of caricature, that we be honest about the challenges that are created in poor communities in particular, where there's so few resources to get the legal help you need. And they were very sensitive to that, which I appreciated.
As far as the message, the theme of the movie, and the title, Just Mercy, can you talk about what that means to you?
Yeah. I think that we are at risk in the criminal justice space, but even more broadly, of allowing fear and anger to shape our policy making and our decision making. And I am persuaded that fear and anger will lead us to do things we shouldn't do. It will make us tolerate things we should never tolerate. We accept things we shouldn't accept. I think fear and anger are the essential ingredients of injustice and oppression and abuse. And that kind of decision making has to be tempered by a commitment to the rule of law. I was raised to believe, as the scriptures say, that we should love mercy, that we should do justice, and that we should walk humbly with God. And we have a lot of people who accept that doctrine, but when we try to implement it, fear and anger gets in the way and we start doing things that are very extreme. And I just don't think we've actually exercised the kind of mercy that we would want for ourselves. And so the book was really about just lifting up these stories, getting closer to the people that we read about in the newspapers that we don't always get to understand. And I'm just persuaded that if we understand more, we'll want to do some things differently. We have no empathy or concern for people who have violated the law, and I think that makes us vulnerable to punishments and practices and policies that can be abusive and extreme. And I've certainly seen that. And you know, the title was really an appeal for mercy, just mercy. But it was also intended to question the other idea of whether we can have justice without mercy. If we're unwilling to be compassionate, if we're unwilling to care about the other things people are, in addition to the crimes they've been accused of, I don't think we're going to end up with a system that's just. For me, the goal is to let people know that we can make a difference, that you have to come together, you have to talk about issues, even if they're painful and challenging. This is a story of injustice in this community, but it's also a story of triumph in this community, where people kept fighting, they kept standing, they kept pushing, and a result was obtained that was a just result. And so I hope people will take from this that if we resolve to do better, we have the power to do better. We can create a more reliable, more just system. But it takes all of us. It's not just something that one person can do. Entire communities were implicated in what happened to Mr. McMillian, and that's going to continue to be true. So we all have to be involved. There's so many people in the state who don't even know who their district attorney is. Couldn't name them if you asked them. They don't know who their judges are, and that can't help us. We got to change that if we're going to actually create the kind of accountability and the kind of fairness that we want to see. And we're excited for the film to get out. It'll be released Thursday night the 9th. I guess there'll be some preview screenings, and then it'll go full release on the 10th, and so we're very excited about that.